Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Diamond, and I am here today because I love to talk about movies and books and TV shows and different things and different media that I'm consuming. And I don't have a lot of people in my circle to talk about with things, and I just love to discuss them. So I read Score. I read Score by Miss Kennedy Ryan, and let me just say, first, she's a thick girl. It took us through a journey, okay? I want to say that I did enjoy this book. It was really, really good. I think that the story flowed so beautiful with how everything just came together. And I'm going to get more into why I said that. So let's get into it. If you read the book, feel free, like always, comment down below how you felt about the book. If you're looking forward to reading it, this is going to be a in-depth, just my thoughts. I got my notebook on the side so I can remind myself of different points I want to talk about. And I literally just finished it, and I'm trying to get better at finishing books and then talking about it before it escapes my brain. So let's get into it. This is It is technically a standalone series. Like, you don't have to have read Real to understand the characters in this book, but this is the Harlem. No, it is the Hollywood Harlem Renaissance like series that she has going on, and this is coming off of Real, which was about Kanan and Nevaeh and their whole relationship. So this is Verity and Monk. Now, Verity and Monk, this is second chance romance. Let's try it again. They met each other in college, and something happened that made them not be together, and then they happened to be working on the same project, which was the Desi project, where they were bringing a Black woman artist and sharing her story and her path and everything that was going on during the Harlem Renaissance era. So let's get into it. Y'all, first of all, I want to say that we came in hot. The book, okay, let's put this down. We started off so hot in the book, okay? You're getting introduced to the characters. And I said this in my vlog, which you can go check out my other channel where I am an entrepreneur and I talk about business and everything like that, yada, yada, yada. This is not about me. This is about them. So my first reaction when I first started reading was, this is going to be so good, because opening up, we're starting at the beginning of when she meets Kanan, and he's like, I want you to be the writer on this movie. I know you went to school for this. You know a lot about like the history and different things like that. It's like, so they both were ecstatic at the fact they get to tell the story about a woman whose story got brushed on, like her talents got brushed under the rug, and which is happens to a lot of Black creatives in the space. So that excited me because it immediately brought me back to reading Real. So to come off of Real and then to get here, and I remember it in their book from like Kanan's point of view when he met with Verity, and then it was like oh yeah, by the way, also you were highly recommended by my good friend Monk. So off rip, it's been years. I think it had been 12 years since she had last seen Monk. And so she's living her life, getting everything together. She looks at this opportunity and she's like, hell yeah. But when she finds out that it's Monk, which was a lover of hers, it was just like everything changed. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to see the man that I haven't seen in a very long time. And the situation that happened with them was that during that time, she found out that she was bipolar. And when she had a mania episode, it unfortunately caused a rift in her relationship with Monk, because it was a lot of things that happened. So when you're going along and you're reading the story, I'm going from the beginning, we're going to work our way through. But it's like when you're going along and you're reading the story, to me, I think second chance romance is very circumstance based. I think it depends on the situation and what happened. And for me, it's just like, who hurt who? Like, in this situation, it was Verity that hurt Monk, because Monk's character, he's a PK kid, a pastor kid, and his father cheated on his mom, and then his mom was the one that kind of left the church And so his view of marriage and all those things was very like tainted because he seen the hurt that his father had caused his mother. So he already had a strained relationship with his father, and he stuck with his mother, and he had a strained relationship with his siblings because his siblings were still involved in the church, and he just didn't understand how his siblings could still be involved with anything that had to do with their dad because, you know, his mom was the one that lost everything and was embarrassed. So he already had this hurt. And in the very beginning, first of all, them meeting each other and they instantly had this spark of attraction for each other. So he's performing and they lock eyes, and it's just like this like, oh, okay, like, you know how you may see a guy that you find attractive, you're like, oh, okay, he cute. And Monk, he's a musician, so I know that's attractive to see a man playing and singing and doing all those things. So they already had seen each other, but at the time Verity had transferred to Finley, and she was in this open relationship with Petra. And you find out that she's bisexual. And this is the first time I've ever read a book with the character being bisexual and also the threesome that happened. Let's get into it. So Petra's character was very interesting because it was like she definitely set them up. She set them up because she seen the attraction that they had for each other. And at that time, I think it was just like their relationship was kind of new. And Petra was still doing what she wanted to do, but Verity wasn't necessarily like, even though they were in an open relationship, it didn't seem like Verity was very much doing the open part. It just seemed like Petra was doing the open part. And so the fact that they kind of had this bet of like, she probably seen the instant connection that they had with each other. No words spoken, no nothing. But you can see like Verity is a very pretty girl. And Monk was like, wow, this girl is really pretty. Like, you know, so I think the start of their relationship was crazy to begin with because you're in the situation where imagine you see like this girl that you think is attractive. You see this dude that you think is attractive, but you're in this open relationship. He comes to the party because Petra was cool. Like she knew who he was. And off rip, the first time you really get to be with this girl is with her and her girlfriend. And there was rules. Petra laid it down. She said, this is what we're going to do. This is what you're not going to do. Because I think that Petra knew that if they really got together, then she would want to be with him. Because it wasn't like Verity was against being with guys. I think she had just been with girls. So they still, like, even after the deed was done and they did what they did and they woke up, they had this like connection with each other. And I definitely think the start of the relationship was very lust filled. I think it was very like steamy because, I mean, look what you just did with old girl. And I think even when they woke up, I don't think she wanted him to go. I think even from the beginning, she was just like, wow, like I like that connection was there. And so, because even after like they didn't talk for a while and when they ran into each other again, and it was just like when she told him like, you know, I'm not with Petra anymore. And when she was just like, this is why I need to have my phone facing down the other way because that just distracted me. So I just think like it's interesting the fact that their relationship didn't really go far after that night. It was like Verity, I definitely felt like she wanted more from Monk and Monk wanted more from Verity, and Monk was like, I'm not with the whole sharing. Like, I'm not doing that. Like, if we do this, I'm going to want to do this. Like, just me and you type. So when they ran into each other that night and he found out that she wasn't with Petra anymore, it was like all bets are off. But I really like the fact that I feel like Monk's character is something very attractive about a man who can like sexually like restrain himself, like just like hold himself. Like obviously like we both want each other, but even when they had their night and their first little date and he took her out to eat and stuff like that, and like they had their moment where it was intense, he was like, you know, I don't want you like this. Like I like, you know, because I know if this is the case and I'm going to want you. Right. And I just think that's like Monk's character in this way was just like attractive in a way, because even when, and I feel like she wrote it so well because you could just feel the tension like between them. Like you could always feel like this deep attraction that they have for each other. And then now, okay, so we already know that something happened with Verity and her parents. She keeps alluding to it. She keeps saying like there's something. I thought maybe like I was already off rip thinking that her dad had unalived her mom. But we still didn't understand what it was that happened. And then somewhere along the way we found out it was like a fire and stuff like that. But the transition from let me see. I want to see, because there was like moments or movements in the book that like broke everything up. So the back and forth between each character, I think, and also when they had seen each other at the art gallery, and I think that Kenny Ryan did such a good job at leaving these little small moments that you're not really thinking too much about it until you get to the big moment, and then you start remembering like, oh, you know what? She was attracted to that fire sculpture, but we didn't understand why. And she was doing stuff like, but we just didn't understand why. And it's just like the buildup of when she had her big like mania episode. Like the buildup was crazy because it made you just think like back to all these moments that happened. So I think, let's see. Okay, so we're going, right? Verity starts acting out of character, okay? She is working on this big project, and she had this air of like confidence in her class when she was presenting her project. And at that point, she wasn't sleeping regularly. She was working, and she had been with Monk this whole entire time. And two creatives, like I think he was just even more drawn to her for her passion for writing, and you know, he had a passion for music. And so when you with somebody and they have a passion for what they do and it's something to do with creative, I just think like that's just so beautiful. Like I love seeing creatives fall in love, because it's like y'all can do such great things. Like he's a musician, you're a writer, like wow, oh my gosh. So they've been with each other regularly. They're exclusive. They're not talking to no one else. He already laid it out to Verity that listen, I seen my father cheat on my mother. I have a thing about infidelity. If it happens, that's a deal breaker for me. I'm done. I can't do it. She already knew that, still already knew it. I mean, understood it. And they had this air of like understanding for each other. They were exclusive. But little by little, as you're reading and you're getting to like, okay, we're introduced to Verity when she just had this big thing that happened at USC and she had to come to Finley, but we don't really understand what happened. And we also know that she tragically lost her parents to a situation, but we don't know what happened. So she started acting in a different way, and you could see the build up, because even when she was going to the tuition office to go pay her tuition, her aunts, you know, put together the little money that they had to kind of help her get into college. She goes and she looks at this dress and she is just like, wow, this dress, right? She blows through the money, gets a dress, gets the shoes, gets all cute. And it's not like, you know, this is a dress, like it's short, it might be a little skimpy, like, you know, she's a beautiful woman. She goes to Monk and she tries to be with him, but he's working at the studio, and she tries to pull a move on him. He's like, what are you doing? She feels rejected. She goes to the bar, and obviously she's looking really good. So men are like coming around her and being attracted to her. She starts drinking where she doesn't drink. And she has her big moment where it was like Petra was trying to help her. It was like, you're not acting like yourself. Like, is everything okay? And I feel like Petra did as much as she possibly could in that situation. And Monk also was like hurt by it, because he was like, she's not acting like how she, like this almost not like quiet girl, but this reserved girl, like all of a sudden she's like doing like crazy things like that's not normally like her. And but he has to finish his task and his job. So I think in some cases some people would feel like, you know, Monk should have came sooner in the situation, but it's like he had work to do. You know, I kind of understand why. But when Petra called him, it was like, you need to come get our girl. Like, you need to come get her. Like, she's not acting herself. She's surrounded by all these men, and, you know, she just danced on the table. Like, she's being wild. And when Monk finally gets there, and he's like, and it's like, I'm reading it, and I'm like, he is really in love with this girl. He is really like, he really, really loves her. And the connection was just so deep for him. And so to then catch her in the act of almost doing something. I mean, I'm thankful that he showed up when he showed up, because it was just like, had he not shown up when he showed up, it could have went, you know, crazier. Like, she was already like caught kissing another guy. So when Monk seen that, obviously this is the big thing for him. The big thing that he told her that he didn't want her to do in this situation, she did. She was kissing another guy. They was exclusive. She technically was cheating. And so the hurt that he felt was like, dang, you know? And then so after all this said and done, she goes to the apartment. She's like, I'm sorry, it wasn't me. And at that point, he's so hurt, but he's also battling himself because he loves her and care about her so much that he was willing to, like, you know, it was like a stand on my ground and my deal breaker, or go against myself and give her a chance to whatever happened. So he rejects her again, tells her, you need to get out of my apartment. Like, I don't know what the fuck that was, but that's not how we rolling. To then have her feel this way of everything that has been happening up until that point. And she goes back to the art gallery part where the sculpture that was on fire, and she has a mental breakdown. And when I read that, I was like, oh, this is sad, especially because the way that Kennedy Ryan wrote it, and the way she just, like, she's in this like short dress, she's running, at this point she's exposed, and she breaks into the building, glass is everywhere, and she's having this moment, and you can tell that this isn't, like, it's a mental breakdown. And then obviously she broke into the building, so alarms are going off, and then these officers come, and now she's vulnerable. She's a black woman, she's naked, she's having a mental breakdown. And then the one of the professors is just like, Verity, like, and like covers her up because she's naked. And it's like, if the professor wasn't there, like, these officers are looking at this woman who's vulnerable and they're putting handcuffs on her, and the professor's just like, no, like, she needs help. It gets her admitted into a hospital. And then we get through all of that. She wakes up, and her aunts, and they're trying to figure out what's wrong with her, and her aunts have been talking to the doctor, and the doctor explains, like, you know, considering the fact that you were really, really depressed at USC, and they put you on antidepressants, but there was obviously something else that was going on. And then they was like, you know, you might have bipolar disorder, you know, because the erratic behavior, lack of sleep, no routine, all of that can cause a mania episode. And you feel very, very high, and then you like just, it comes, and then it gets like kind of crazy to where you're not acting like you, hypersexual, and like all those things. And it all starts to add up, and you start thinking, like, little by little, she wasn't sleeping, she was focused. And then it was like she had this aha moment, and she was confident, and she like came up with the idea, and she wrote, and it was creative, and it was all that, but it was literally leading up to a mania episode. And then, right, so she goes, the last page, she was just like, I'm not like him. And she talked to her aunt, because then they started to figure out that maybe her father was diagnosed. Because now we're trying to understand, like, something happened mentally with her father, right? And so it said, and yet the picture Dr. Simmons painted makes sense of everything that happened from the time I had to leave USC to last week's disastrous episode. If she's right, if I have bipolar, then as shattered as my heart is now, leaving Wright Bellamy was the kindest thing I could have done. I've seen how a love like this, tethered to something wild and dark, this decimates. I saw it in the charred rubble of our house and in my parents' gravestones planted in the earth, set together like two lovers. I love Monk too much to ever let that be us. And yeah, because it's just like everything is like, the doctor was like, words just pour out of you fast and not stop. You might talk over others because you literally have trouble not saying every thought that passes through your mind. And it's just like, we often see outrageous spending sprees, being irresponsible with money, out of character, sexual behavior. And it's just like, she was just acting like not herself. And she realized, like, damn, like, you know, I did the one thing that Monk didn't like, and I got caught, you know, cheating. So we go on. It says movement 2. You read it, Verity, 11 years old. And then we finally see or read what happens with her parents. And that scene right there, coming off the fact that we just found out that she has bipolar and that her father was also probably mentally ill as well. And then you read what happens and why her, and like what happened between her parents and why she kept just like was so afraid of like, not so afraid, but seeing like how her parents, like what happened between her parents, and to find out that her dad was like mentally ill and he was convinced that her mom was cheating on him, and he was saying how it was in the walls, and it was just, and she talked about how sometimes when her dad was good, they were perfect. It was like love, like he loved her mom, loved the family, loved all that, but when he was not good, it was very dangerous. And so to say that that night, and you're reading it and you're figuring out like, because I had already assumed like the dad has to have unalived mom, but to read that, you know, it was his breaking point at that point, and he pushed the mom, and then the mom hit her head, and obviously that's kind of how she passed away. And the fact that Verity then ran to her aunt's house, and then by the time they ran to the house, she's 11 years old. By the time they run to the house, the dad set the house on fire, and then the dad realizes what he did, doesn't say anything, and then just walks into the house, walks into the flame, and nobody could save them. So you lost your parents in one night in the most tragic way that you could have lost your parents, by your dad's mental illness that no one knew really about. And it's like in the book, the mom was like, you need to get help. You need to get help. There's something wrong with you. Like, you're not okay. And like, and then you read that, and then it goes straight into movement 3. And like, and this is when I say, like, I just felt like it was written so, like, how do you know to put something like that together, to let that flow like that? Because I felt every emotion that I could possibly have felt in those moments of reading this book. Like, to have gone through that, and then you read that, and then it says movement 3, and now it's her at 23 years old, and like time has passed, and now she realized that she's been diagnosed with bipolar. And literally that scene was like this many pages. Like it was literally just explaining what happened with her parents, and then that was it. And like I had to sit with that for a second, because that was deep, and I just felt like the way it flowed was just crazy to me. And then we fast forward, and Verity is, and then even the start of chapter 19 is almost as if, because it starts off with her being in her doctor's office, and when her therapist's office, and it was like she was recounting that moment, and then her therapist was like, because she said, Verity, open your eyes. And then she realizes that she's not back there at that scene when she was 11 years old. She's back in therapy at the moment, and she has just done so much with her life, and she started to get a hold and control of her mental health, and like dealing with the fact that she is bipolar. And I feel like she had to take that time to mentally like figure out medicines that was going to help stabilize her mood. And obviously it's not a fix, because you still have your moments, and then it's just like what it seems like is the medication, yes, it stabilizes your mood, but also at the same time, it also dulls your personality. So it's like, I can imagine being a creative who writes for a living or wants to act for a living, but you take medicine that causes you to feel like not yourself. But when you're not on the medicine, you feel great. But then if you're not on the medicine, then it leads to you having these mania episodes. And I just really felt for my girl Verity. So we're going through this, and time has passed, and now she is in New York. She got her life together, getting her life together. And everything that happened in Finley, she basically just never contacted Monk again. Like, I feel like she just, and she said that it happens for like with people who have like big mania episodes before you realize that you have it or whatever. It's like you don't really feel right to talk to the person or talk to people that you hurt in the process of you being somebody that you're not. And so at this time, we know that she hasn't talked to Monk. She is getting stabilized in her emotions. She's having her routine. She knows that she needs to get good rest. She needs to meditate, work out, take care of herself, eat, all those things, because all those are just like the perfect things that kind of keeps her stable. And she knows that like she had messed up, but she never had really like talked to him after that. And I think for me, it's just like, and when we was in book club, one of the ladies was just saying like, how could one of the ladies was saying, how could you say that you loved or cared about this girl so much, but and I also can understand that his hurt for the situation could have blinded his reasoning, because it's just like you love that girl so much and then she just disappeared and then you never heard from her again, and then it's just like, okay, I definitely lost the good quality, so I'm sorry if the mic has died, so hopefully it's still good quality. But it's just like, how could you have let the girl go? Like, you never thought to reach out to her. And I understand that he could have been hurt and he was young at the time, and it was just like, this girl that you love so much, you caught her. But it's like, at that point, if y'all were so infatuated with each other, why would she have done that to you, you know? And it's like, he never got an understanding of it. He never reached out to be like, why did you do that? And like, she disappeared and never came back, and just never spoke to anybody in that short time that she was at Finley about what happened. She just moved on with her life. And she established like her own friends, and she had another friend that was close to her that also had bipolar as well, so they connected with each other. And so then you fast forward 9 years later, and that's when we get back to the fact. So like, at this point, we're like this deep in, right? And at this point, now you're getting the fact that she met Kanan for the first time, and he was like, I want to work with you, because she had won a award for her writing. And so both of them obviously grew up. I think they had really made sure like when they was in their 30s. So Monk was a successful musician, and Verity had became a successful writer. And so now, from here on out, we're dealing with them working on a set together. And from the very beginning, just how when Monk met her for the first time, and when he seen her for the first time, he just could not handle himself. And he just was like, I love this girl. Like, she's still beautiful. I still want her. And so throughout these chapters, he's literally just convincing himself like, you're cool. Like, don't be looking for her, but he's looking for her. Pretend like he went to a party looking for her. Pretend like he was looking for her. And they had mentioned like, I think it's, what movie did she really like? Was it Brown Sugar? So even like little by little, he wanted to pretend, but they mentioned that Brown Sugar was going to be showing, and then he shows up to the Hollywood Forever line hoping that she was there, and they watched the movie together. And it's just like their attraction for each other, and that spark and that special bond that they had with each other was still there after all these years. And you know, Verity, I think in a sense at this point, she was just going back and forth, and I understood. And it was frustrating, yes, because it was just like, it was frustrating because you wanted her to tell him. You wanted her to be like, this is what happened to me. But at this point, she's going back and forth because obviously bipolar is something that it is her. It's a part of her. It's who she is. And she has been stabilizing herself and also in groups and stuff where she has heard people be in relationships and it like fall apart because the partner can't handle all these ups and downs and these different moods and the things that happen, and the partner just can't handle those things. So she was scared to bring someone else into her life and start a family with them, and they might just be like, you're too much for me. Because even in the book where her little, like her her two other friends, they were like in a group of three, her two other friends, and how the friend Tess also is bipolar, and Mel, and how Mel was just saying like, I'm trying to get her to take her medicine, she's not taking her meds, she's off the rocker, da 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 da. She said how exhausting it was, and it's like, that's literally, I felt like Verity kept getting examples of like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, even in a friendship, Mel is coming to me and saying like, she's just too much, and that's hard to hear. And even when she said it, she's like, wow, you know. But it's like, it can be too much to be with someone that has ups and downs, and you never know like their mood and what it could be, and so you want to be there for them, but at the same time it's like how much can someone do? Like you can love someone, but it's like Monk's argument was like, well, they didn't love, because I want to love you, I want to love this version of you, I understand. And even when he found out, he was just like, why had you told me this whole time? Like, it would have just went so differently had you had just been like, oh, I found out I had bipolar. But I feel like for Verity, she just, and then she's seen it in her parents. Like, she kept seeing these examples of, like, she's seen what happened with her dad. She's in these groups and she's listening to people talk about being in relationships and how it works, and them falling apart and getting divorced. And so I think a part of her was just scared. And I feel like, as frustrating as it was that Verity's character would not sit there and just tell him, because it took her forever to tell him what really happened that night, I also had an understanding for her, and I felt for her, because that is hard. That's hard when you like accept that you're not going to have, that you don't want to get married or have kids or live this life, so you accept being alone, or you accept like little hookups here and there. And even when she runs into a guy that apparently she hooked up with and didn't remember it, and it probably was during one of her like episodes, and even he was like feeling type of way. So it's just like Monk just thought this whole time, he's just thinking like, oh, she obviously don't want to be in a relationship, she don't do relationships, like, and she was okay with letting him think those things, because to tell him like, oh, this is what happened, and he's just like, okay, I want to be with you. And it's just like, that's scary to put your trust thinking that one person, you might think and say that now, but time can go on, and then eventually you just might be like, this is just too much for me. So I understood her character and how she held back. So yeah, we're going through it. Obviously, we're also running into, it's also love the fact that if you read Real before reading this, then you're also, everyone's kind of like on Kanan's ass, because they're just like, well, you know how you feel about the actress, you know? And even when we got to the point where Nevaeh had her big moment, when she had got really, really sick and she needed a new kidney, and so they had to stop production. And so we're just reading all these different things, and they're working together, and they finally get to the moment where they're like, okay, obviously we have this attraction for each other, let's keep it at that. Let's just use each other physically, no feelings attached, none of those things. And that didn't last long at all. It literally did not last long. Like, it went from that to just like Monk feeling type of way if he caught just even a guy like looking at her, because there was a guy on the set who was attracted to Verity and tried to move on her, and Monk seen it, and he just was so upset, and it just reminded him and threw him back. And it was just like, yeah, so you're not as good as you thought you were. But at that point, little by little, she just was like, this is what I want. And I love the fact that she took this time to really be like, okay, you know what? I'm going to trust in this connection that I have. And I feel like Monk was just like, I'm here for you. Like, I'm going to learn. I'm going to be there for you. And little by little, it's like she accepted the fact that she can't accept love. And obviously it's going to be work. But I also feel like when obviously, like, if people know like different triggers or things that can make you feel some type of way, you feel like you're almost monitored. Like, did you take your medicine? Make sure you're getting your sleep. Make sure you're doing this. And I feel like Monk wanted to be there for her, but it could almost feel overbearing, because it just feels like everyone thinks that you're just one step away from just having an episode or acting this out a certain way. And it's like I feel like to be a grown adult, and it's just like people are constantly not attacking you, but just they care about you, and they see these different patterns. Even when he tried to be there for her, and it was like, again, another thing where she was stressed out and she was acting out and she was doing things, and it was Valentine's Day, and she had made all this food and she was just going on and on and on, and he was like, hey, are you okay? But he didn't want to pry too much because he didn't want to upset her. But at the same time, he's like, I'm starting to kind of see the signs here. And even she became very, very defensive. But it was right. She hadn't took her medicine. She was on the verge of having another episode. But for the first time, she had finally figured out the script idea for the TV show that she was supposed to be producing. So it's just like I said, that's so tough, because even her friend Tess, like, they were having moments where it was just like, I feel so dull when I take my medicine, but I know if I don't take it, I'm not going to be stabilized. And if I'm not stabilized, then I can have a moment. So it's just like, I just feel like Kennedy just did such a great job at writing and making me feel like, no, like that's real. That's so real. And I could understand exactly what they're going through and what they're talking about. And that is hard. And it's just a everyday battle, and it can be exhausting as well. And so I really love the fact that Monk's character was just like, but I would say I heard feedback of just like everyone's kind of saying like how they wish we kind of got a little bit more from Monk, because we also know that Monk dealing with his parents, and then over time, at some point, his dad started coming around, and he also understood that like his dad and his mom have a special bond and a connection with each other. They would never, obviously be married to each other, but they still have a friendship with each other. And so, and then his stepdad also tragically had passed away. So we had a scene where it was the holiday and he had a talk, and his dad was like, you didn't understand everything, and I understand I hurt you. And he even Monk opened up to his dad, and he was like, this could be look for those signs and all those things. So we didn't really get to a point where we could understand how Monk kind of got over his dad, or not getting over his dad, but just kind of like started to accept that his dad was coming back around a little bit more. And that family dynamic, I feel like it just was like, okay, this is like where we are right now. And then obviously Valentine's Day, whoa, and that you make you think like, was she? We all know that she was like going through like, it was like a something that was brewing, and the whole I don't know if I can say pegging on YouTube, but the whole scene that they had on Valentine's Day where she wanted to like do some other stuff, and he was like, I don't really know about it, but he ended up doing it. I wondered, like, it makes you think, like, if she was already kind of like brewing with having like an episode, was that the cause of her wanting to do that with him? Like, I don't know, but that was crazy. And it felt like I was getting to like this much of the book, and I'm like, when is this going to end? Because at this point we have been through so much. I learned about Verity, her background, her traumatic background with her parents and her mental health and all those things. And then we fast forward, and she allowed herself to have a beautiful baby. And then she also told Monk that, I want to get married to you. So I think that was beautiful. I think it ended beautiful. I don't know what else could have happened. I feel like we got through everything, and they fell in love with each other again. And she accepted him and allowed him to be there for her. And I mean, even Monk, I think Monk was so in love with her that he would literally do anything. I mean, he would do anything. Like, he did. And I feel like he was okay if she didn't want to get married. And his view of how he wanted his perfect marriage to go, he was okay because it was with Verity. And oh my gosh, when he talked about the fact that they carved a home with each other, and like how hard they work, and how they would take these trips out to different parts of the country to just be with each other, because he's doing his music thing, she's doing her writing thing. And he also made sure that he was in it with her, like routines, and like working out with her, doing yoga with her, meditating with her, making sure she was taking her meds. Like, he really showed, and it really showed. And I feel like all of that made her feel like, okay, I could do this. And I just really love that, because she does get to live a beautiful life. Just because she lives with bipolar, it doesn't mean that she can't live a regular, normal life. Hers just looks different. So, yeah. I just think Kennedy Ryan, like, she just did that so great. So, that was Score. And apparently, when I was reading the back of this book, it said it's going to be another book dropping. What did it say? It said, look for the final book in the Hollywood Renaissance series coming summer 2027. So that would be very interesting. But yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. I don't think I can listen to As by Stevie Wonder the same ever again, because I will always think of Verity and Monk. And even when she had him not perform, but when they were at his place and she was like, oh, I want you to sing something for me, and she requested that song, I played it. And I don't know what's up with me with like playing songs that relate to the book, but it really gets me emotional. And Real made me cry. And this book made me cry. But I feel like this book made me cry in so many different ways. Because, you know, you already got a lot of stuff going on in your personal need. You read a love story. And then it's just a lot going on. And I just felt so emotional. And I had put on a song. And they're having a moment where they was with each other for the first time. It was just a lot. It was just a lot. But I thoroughly enjoyed it. I felt like I just don't know how else it could have ended. What else we could have learned. Because this was a thick book. We got the background, the present, and the forward. Like all of that. So if you did read this book, how did you feel about it? I told y'all I want to get better at making these videos. I don't want to make them too long, but we're going step by step with my thoughts and everything that happened. And I just feel like Kenny Ryan, Miss Kenny Ryan, she did such a good job hitting on so many different things, hitting on mental health in the Black community with Black women, and hitting on religion, and hitting on sexuality, and hitting on, like, she hit on so many different parts. And I feel like she just captured it so well. And I felt like I was really going through the emotions, even thinking about like reading and being like, oh, well, you know what? She was infatuated with that sculpture. She was like, you look back and think like all these behaviors was leading towards her having a mania episode. And it's just like, wow, like, how did you think to write something like that? So yes, y'all. Yes, that was so good. And she called me. Hello? I'm trying to finish off this video. Why? Give me a second. So yeah, y'all. That was Score by Kenny Ryan. Beautifully done. Loved it. It felt long towards the end. I'm not gonna hold you. It felt like I was like, okay, I'm gonna get through these last few chapters because they had to wrap a lot of things up. But even getting a glimpse of Kanan and Nevaeh was very, very good. I loved them. I miss them. And yeah, so I will see y'all in my next video. If you did like this video, like, subscribe. I like to make more videos like this. I do have a series called We're Strangers But, and so if you want to submit your story anonymously, I will read it on here, give my 2 cents. It's always good to have somebody unbiased read about your situation. No judgment, judgment-free zone. I'm also just a little nosy, so I want to hear the craziest, messiest stories that there is out there, because I know y'all got some stories. So if you want to be included in that, I always leave all links to Warren Pages, to my other channel, to my social media. All those things are always down in the description box down below. Y'all, I've been reading Cappadonna, so the next video y'all might see me is talking about Cappadonna 1, 2, 3, because I read all of them so fast and I need to talk about those. So those might be my next one. And leave down some book recommendations. I love thriller and I love romance, preferably by a Black author, preferably Black characters. And I think that's it. I'm done yapping. I will see y'all next time. 46 minutes. Woo!